Can anyone hear me? The introduction, I don't know what happened to the introduction. I think I pressed the wrong button. So if anyone's out there, just say thumbs up or yeah, I can hear you, and then we'll start. Sorry about this. If you can't hear me, oh yeah, thanks Edward. Thank you. So I pressed the wrong button. Jason's not here, unfortunately. And what would happen is that if I pressed another one, it'll just end. And I can't get it back on. So anyway, I'm here. And I've got my old mate with me, my old good friend Anthony. But I just want to show you a map in there and go around, do some things, talk about some things, and give you a little bit of history. Might give you some international history as well, which it normally did because when I was lecturing and I was doing this local stuff, I always brought in national and international history. You can't just talk about Liverpool, but the connections with the world is incredible. Absolutely amazing. Really are, So, Edward. I know what you mean now, Frank, with Trump saying the ads help, but basically saying that we will be speaking to you. Do you know, I'm glad you brought that up, to be honest, Edward, because I don't know. No, I remember my old professor, and I was chatting to him one day. He'd retired. I think he's dead now. I think he's well gone. And I was talking to him, and he said to me, I go over to America every year. He said, I'm on my way next week to give lectures. And he said, they know absolutely nothing. That's what he said to me. The Americans know absolutely nothing. The history is all about America. It's all about like the communities they live in. That's what he said to me. And I said, well, what do you talk about? He said, I try to tell them about the first Virginians and what has happened to them. The first Virginians. And why some states is named after, like Penn, British Prime Minister, Pennsylvania. Virginia is named after Elizabeth. I said, oh, him. He looked at me like, because I believe some of you might agree, some of you won't, and say, oh, he's a kooky. But I believe that Elizabeth I was a man. Definitely a man. Too many characteristics about her, male characteristics. It's like today, if you have these transgenders, and you're getting people, wanting to go to court and saying, hey, listen, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And how you can tell a man is an Adam's apple. Adam's apple. That's how you can tell a man. No female as a Adam's apple. And Elizabeth I had an Adam's apple. She shaved every day. She was very hirsute. She was 6'1". She had male pattern baldness. She had big hands and big feet. very hirsute, as I said. She always wore a ruffle. Every artist, every single artist who was brought in to paint her, they were told to make her look more feminine. More feminine. And as I said, she had no breasts, she had no nothing. And Walsingham at the time, he would have made sure that she would have married and have heirs to the throne, because it was a new dynasty of a new religion, the Church of England rather than the Church of Rome, to carry on the dynasty of that. Did she marry? No. What was the spin? She married the count. And she had a suitor. He wanted to marry her for the sake of having power. He was 13th in line to the throne, and that was the Earl of Essex. What happened to him? He ended up on the chopping block. So you see, it's I'll just see the comment there. But you see what I mean? And she spoke with a gruff voice, and I'll tell you who skit her. The Spanish, saying that she was a feminine, the Spanish. And also, if you've ever seen the Blackadder during the Elizabethan period, they skittered at it as well. So, there's lots of different things. Sorry about this. And Edward says, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, loud and clear. Says, I'll just go through these now and bring my wonderful friend, the international artist, Mr. Anthony Brown. Bring him up. And Toscana. Gianfranco, can hear you loud and clear. Hello to everyone. Oh, Toscana. Cara mia. Come stare. Well, buonasera. Buonasera. And George said, greetings, Frank and chat. Gary Rigby. Even in Frank, I didn't get the notes, but kept checking. Oh, thanks. To be honest, I've been too busy, honestly. I've got to work here. I've got a couple, I've got a friend coming tomorrow. I was saying to Anthony last year, I'm doing something, and I'm going to show the positiveness of Liverpool, and I'm putting it on YouTube. And the chap who's coming to make it, or making it with me, is here tomorrow. So I'll be talking to it. It should be great. Looking forward to it. And George, I've seen this. George met a lad in America years ago when he told us he was a student who studied American history. I asked, what did you do after lunchtime? Brilliant. Even in Frank says Lynn Ellis. Evening, Lynn. Is it about Elizabeth I tonight? No, Edward, I'm just saying something with you, what you said about Trump. See, Trump, you've only got to look at what he's doing. Remember when he came in, right, it's not the Gulf of Mexico no longer, it's the Gulf of America. Isn't he? And what did he say after that? What's he, well, right now, he's been changing the Persian Gulf into the Gulf of Arabia. That's what he wants to do. He wants to take over Canada. He wants to take over Greenland. He's a nutter. And I really thought that this man was going to come in and bring peace. And there was a thing, I was on it before, I don't use Facey, I really don't. But I seen this particular comment and it said, does Trump deserve the Peace Prize? I said, well, I never said it politely. I said, no. I said, he's supplying Ukraine with arms to escalate the war with Russia. He's supplying Israel with arms. He wants to really go into war with Iran. He's surrounded himself with what you call neocons and globalists who are all war hawks. There's negotiations going on in this town, but well, they're not because Zelensky's fucked everything. Sorry, has effed everything up already. And all the spin is going on to Vladimir Putin. How's that? Anyway, so you say he's just a clown, in my opinion. And they want to give him the Peace Prize. He loves Macron. Hates Starmer, which we all hate, to be honest. If you don't hate Starmer, then I don't think anyone has a clue about anything. And Lammy, what do you think of that? What do you think of him? An embarrassment. An embarrassment. Gets a taxi from Italy to the south of France to a skiing lodge or whatever he went. And in my opinion, he wouldn't pay the taxi driver. It's shocking. He's an embarrassment to the British government. What kind of British government we've got, like? And I don't know. You get lost with all this. I really can't. It's just pathetic. Well, anyway, what I was going to say is, well, Trump, because he hates Starmer, he hates Hillary, would he change, and he loves Macron, would he actually change with him changing, as I said, the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America and wanting to change, the Persian Gulf into the Gulf of Arabia? He said he isn't going to do it now, but he fucking will. And would he change the English Channel into the French Channel? La Mancha. Would he do that? I think he would. Right. So it's not Elizabeth. Sorry, Elizabeth. I just thought I'd throw it in. I could give you loads of proof, by the way. Hi, Frank and Anthony, and everyone, like and subscribe, please, says the wonderful Christopher. And there's our Johan. Good evening, Frank, Anthony, and legends in the chat. See, these are all legends. All legends. That sounds great, Frank. All I hear is negativity about Liverpool, mostly from outsiders who have never been brilliant, Gary. Wait till you see what I'm planning to do. Wait till you see. And it's you're even getting scousers going around, to the seedy sides of Liverpool. Going, well, look at this, I've never been down here before. But I'll make you proud. I'll make them proud of Liverpool. Make them. Great history, great architecture, great everything. That's what I'll be doing. showing the great side of it, the historical side of it. I've got gout, by the way. I haven't been out all day, so I need Frank and everyone to keep me company. Oh, isn't that lovely? All right, I get it. It's terrible, that. That's shocking. I sympathise. I really sympathise. I've got a terrible pain from here to there, and it's coming down my arm. And that's why you see me doing this sometimes. So I empathise, sympathise. Yeah. Zelensky is a joke. Lambie a tool. Starmer an absolute yes. Says the North. Red. Yes. George Seth says, Frank, I propose of the last history show how innocent people convicted of this latest one on the guy 30. Oh yeah. Do you mean when it's at the murders? Shocking. Shocking. Billy Moore, can't stand him, says Gary. And I'm going to, on that wonderful note, I'm going to bring in my good friend, and there he is, the great Anthony. Great man, this fella, believe me. And there he is.
Good evening.
Are you Anthony?
Hiya, mate. Hiya, Frank. Hiya, chat. Hiya, all.
Yeah. So, it's, I'm being honest, I'm just going to show a map and things, talk about things. I haven't a clue what to talk about tonight. And Edward says, hey, what about the housemate stuff? Then he mentioned Zelensky. So, it's great when I can actually respond to the likes of these people.
Yeah.
I call. Remember that song? Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender.
Yeah.
Well, Zelensky is that. He's the great manipulator. That's in my opinion. I'm just saying that. That's in my opinion. And, everybody's focused on him, that man. And, well, anyway, it's all history. It's all everything about. It affects us. You mightn't think that Ukraine doesn't affect us. Of course, it affects us.
It does.
That's why you've had money taken away. Especially the pensioners and the winter thing, whatever they got.
Yeah.
To warm the homes up.
Yeah.
That was taken away, and there's going to be others taken away.
I think we're living in a slight climate of fear, global. Really, people just want to live their lives. Just well get paid from maybe a crap job just to bring the kids up, give your family the best it can, but it doesn't work like that now.
No, it doesn't work like that.
1 billion is 1 billionaire too many. We don't need billionaires. What do we need billionaires for?
But there are billionaires, and they run and rule all of us.
Yes.
That's who it is.
Did you?
See, the billionaires stem from, the likes of, I'd have to go back to the Roman times and, these senators. Now, senators, believe it or not, they, an example is Crassus, great Crassus, senator. And Julius Caesar, he was called back to Rome, but he already defeated everybody, the likes of the French, the Spanish, and he didn't want to go back to Rome. So he sent a message out to Crassus. He said, will you fund me to go over to Britannicus across Oceanus Britannicus. Now, the Romans in those days, they always said that, you know, a body of water that you can't see land is full of evil demons, right? So Crassus said, if you could do that, yeah, I'll give you the money. Because, they all have to pay their troops and whatever. But he crossed it, nevertheless. He got to Britannicus. Half of his cavalry was swept away. And even when he got back, he did a trade deal with them. But when he got back, and he got back to Rome, he did say there are evil demons. And he mentions about his cavalry being swept away by the evil demons.
Yeah.
You see, so the likes of politicians, Crassus was a senator. It's the likes of those who back the leaders, if you like, to go to war. So it stems back, goes back even further, to be honest. Then it goes into medieval times. And the kings, they actually led out, troops, the kings of England. But we would always try to build an empire even from then. Then we built an empire. And as William Blake says in this poem, in the poem London, that is, as the hapless soldier sighs, as blood runs down palace walls, these ports, they knew what was going on at the time. And it was kings, then it became prime ministers, then they were sending everybody out to war. Now I'm going to surprise people on here, because in Ukraine, what you're not being fed is that by the media, by the Western media, and the Ukraine has lost 1.2 million troops. You're not getting them. And as far as Zelensky's concerned, he's the biggest puppet on the planet here. You always have puppets, and he's the puppet of the West. And he's not coming out going, I want Putin here, I want Putin. I will not negotiate anything. He's got fuck all to negotiate. He's got nothing. And Putin never said that he'd go anyway. He's just sent a team of negotiators. That's all he sent to Istanbul.
Yeah.
And he's saying this. He's being scripted. And can't anybody see that? He's being scripted by Macron, Merz, Starmer. These people are just totally scripting him what to say. He's not coming out. He's an actor. And people can't say he's an actor. And he's being well paid for it. He's being paid billions. Let's see what it is. Oh, yeah. Edward. Big up Frank and Anthony and chat.
And you, Edward.
George said, good evening, Anthony, sir.
Good evening, George. That sounds very formal.
Oh, that's what else. Big up, Frank, mate. Hope you're all well today. Yes, I'm okay. Gary the Rigby. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Gary. Sorry to hear you in the wars, mate.
Barry Aldridge. Evening, Frank and Anthony.
Good evening, Barry.
And George says, what's the documentary about Peter the Great, 6'7" tall, hard as nails, and was wild on his trip to England? in the 1690s.
Yeah.
Peter the Great.
Yeah.
Well, what Nicholas was it was Nicholas II who came to England, and he came over to Liverpool, and he went into the, had lunch and dinner and everything down at the town hall. And then they showed him around Liverpool, and he went, "Oh, it's great here, isn't it?" Didn't you? So he brought, and he went, "Oh," I said, "Oh, what's that?" If Jason was here, he'd put it up, but I can't put it up because he's not here. Anyway, he said, "What's that? What a beautiful building that is." And he went, "Oh, you won't want to go in there." I said, "Why? Why? I'd like to. Aren't I allowed?" They said, "Yeah, you can go anywhere, but you won't want to go in there." Do you know what it was? It was our jail. It was the borough jail.
Wow.
they said, "Oh, you can't." But anyway, what has happened? He loved it. He went in, seen it. He went, "Whoa, this is great." This went back to Russia. Went back to Russia. Got these architects in and builders and said, "I want you to go to Liverpool and have a look at their jail. And when you come back, I want a jail built."
Wow.
So he went, "Yeah, okay." So they all went over, they all seen it. Yeah, "Whoa, yeah, it's great here." So when they went back, do you know what they built? Rubianka, based on
Wow.
our jail here. How about that?
Gosh. That's what we talked about. You talked about. We dipped into so often is the inspiration of buildings when you go to different land.
Yeah,
And we brought you
absolutely.
to Liverpool, made it our own.
Absolutely. You see, when we built the overhead railway, when we built that, we just didn't build it like as an overhead railway where, little steam trains could run up and down, bypassing each other to bring workers to work, to bring goods, in and off the docks. We electrified it. So it became the very first electrified railway. In other words, it was the very first railway to be electrified rather than use steam. Now, do you know why Sir Douglas Fox did that? I'll tell you for why. And it's so simple. It's so simple. He said, they were saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, that's going to cost a fortune." He said, "It won't." He said, "What will cost a fortune is if ships go on fire." And he, "What do you mean, ships go on fire? Are you kidding?" He said, "No." Because he said, if a train is going along, steam train, what you don't see, you might see it of a night, but what you don't see of a day, if you see these trains, is sparks coming out. And they could go on the ship
Yeah.
and set fire to them.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So anyway, they relented. First ever electrified overhead railway in the world. And it was brilliant. So you see, the likes of America are taking great interest. And went, "Look at this.
Of course.
I could show you two buildings. One in, I always forget the name of it. Do you know what? It's shocking for it. Anyway, one in Water Street, right? And the other one, God, blimey, I always forget the name of this street, I always forget it. It's between, do you know the 43 restaurant, number 43, down in Castle Street there. The Italian one, the big Italian one.
Yeah.
What's that street that goes down? Not, I don't believe this. But anyway, I could show you another building on that street. And it was the very same. It was the very same architect who built these two buildings. And one was a fellow by the name of James Ellis. And these particular buildings, some American architect came over and he was looking around and he went, whoa. And he looked at this particular building in Water Street and he looked at the other one. I can't think of the bloody...
On Dale Street?
What?
Was it Dale Street?
No. It's the street that goes off Castle Street. Right on the corner of it, you've got the old Bank of England, 1846 Bank of England, and facing that, you've got the Italian restaurant, number 43. That street going down towards Victoria Street. I forget the bloody name. It's gone completely out of my mind. But anyway, that's where these buildings are. And this fellow went over and he built loads of them in Chicago.
Wow.
He built loads of these buildings in Chicago. And I've had a couple of American friends, from Chicago. And they said, I brought them down to show these particular two buildings.
Yeah.
And they went, whoa. And they were mentioning these buildings and agreeing with each other. They were saying like, oh, that's the Ellis building there. And yeah, right, that's the very same building. And it was this architect who got his inspiration from those two buildings.
Wow.
So you see, they do take great interest.
We do.
From Liverpool.
And the same with history. That's why the Americans say claiming ownership of events, times.
Well, Toscana says Liverpool's a great city. Won't have a bad word said about it, and the locals. If I could have chosen where to be born, it would have been Liverpool. From personal experience, the Scousers have always been so kind.
That's wonderful,
isn't it?
That's just wonderful, and it's just so right.
You get people who come to Liverpool. I'll tell you two people who came to Liverpool. One of them was, he wrote Moby Dick, this fella, Melville. And he came here and he went, oh, it's a terrible place. It's a shocking place. And, he was afraid. He said it was bustling with all these people, lots of prostitutes, lots of this and lots of that. He says, and it was dangerous to walk around. That's what Melville said. The fellow who wrote Moby Dick. The other fellow. Go on.
Imagine he got off the bus on Derby Day.
There you go. After the match. Not before the match, after the match. But you see, and there's the other fella, he was the American consul here.
Yeah.
And he gave Liverpool a terrible name. He just said they're full of ruffians. And that was Nathaniel Hawthorne. He wrote a novel called The Scarlet Letter, about the Puritans and this girl having an extramarital affair
Yeah.
with this married man, and she had to walk around with the scarlet letter A on her dress. So he wrote that, and he just said it was full of ruffians. Most probably he was right at the time, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he was friends with the president, wasn't he?
Yeah, of
And
course he was.
that's
Yeah,
where the gig for, um, you know, ambassador or whatever it was for America came from.
yeah, consul.
He went into one of our most famous pubs, and we used to have so many, but we still got a handful. And this is one that I know you actively yourself campaigned to keep open.
Yeah, the post office. Post office.
Yeah, yeah.
Post office. Yeah,
Come,
and it's surprising who went in there. Charles Dickens went in there.
yeah,
Charles Dickens.
yeah,
He went in there.
yeah,
Loads went in there. Allegedly, so did Adolf Hitler.
yeah, yeah. Maybe
So
saying
could you imagine Anthony Brown, Frank Carlyle, Adolf Hitler, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Charles Dickens, all in a little corner having a chat.
and Adolf getting off. Hey, you have
I'm getting off now. See how Wilhelm going up there, Zelfie. He's got me a bed for the night. See you later, boys. Said I might bring some heavy gear in a few years' time. Me and them bombs. Johan says, Frank, did you see a recent Jimmy Dore segment about Macron Starmer and mates with? Yeah, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow night, Johan. I'm going to talk about a disgraceful thing. As I said, lots of people. We have families who fought in the Second World War, even the First World War. But we have families who've most recently fought in the Second World War. They've gone now, passed on. And I'll be talking about that tomorrow night, rather than now. So, yes, Johan. That's it. And the capo, the boss. Greetings, FC and Anthony, and Reds on the chat. Just calls in to remind all to hit the likes. Best channel on YouTube. I'm occupied with our end of the season event in Dublin Friday, the 23rd of May. You'll never walk alone with hope. Isn't that lovely?
beautiful.
Isn't that lovely?
Every message tonight is just lovely. Just
It's the mince pie, man.
oh,
Even in Frankie and the pints. Even in Anthony.
even a Tony, that's brilliant.
The mince pie, man. He's a lovely fella, They're all lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it Fenwick Street, Frank? No, it's not Fenwick Street. That's where Banner Street Charlton lived.
Yeah.
And Banner Street Charlton got a terrible name of the Americans. I don't know whether you're aware of that, because he was actually over there fighting in the War of Independence. Banner Street. And it was Banner Street, along with George Gascoigne, who arrested when they held him till the special constables came and arrested John Bellingham after he shot Spencer Percival.
Wow.
So the Liverpool connection was immense. And do you know that George Gascoigne? Do you ever remember the University Challenge?
Yeah.
Well, the descendant from him was Bamba.
Bamba Gascoigne, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Christopher. Is it? Thank you, Christopher. I salute you, my friend. I
Oh,
always forget. Why I always forget that.
because it's such a small but historic
Is it
section.
very,
You,
very,
you
very?
turn off, off Castle Street, and then there you are. But the building you describe, it's just come clear
You
into.
forget, yeah, with the long windows.
Uh,
Now, why Ellis? They were all made up. The owners, for example,
yeah,
the owners of these two buildings, they were made up. They went, oh, look at this. Because what they didn't have to buy was oil lamps and candles, and because all the sunlight was going into them, light.
yeah.
So, they didn't have to use lights all the time.
You would think what a simple thing that we take for granted now. You know, you're
Yeah.
walking anywhere and it's a dark room, it's a light room, whatever. I wonder what inspired him to do that.
I
Was that,
think it was himself. I think it was himself. I'll
yeah,
tell you for why. Um, Two of my favourite writers, I'm talking about prose here, not poets, prose. Dickens, right? But 400 years before Dickens, we had the great Shakespeare.
yeah,
And Shakespeare,
yeah,
he used to go out into the garden, as like the sun was, and he was writing.
yeah,
He was writing. He couldn't sit in the house. Dickens did exactly the same.
yeah,
He did exactly the same. He went outside,
yeah.
as don't forget, you're looking at like these houses, especially Victorian. These horrible windows, very dark.
They don't
So
have,
even in the early afternoon, it goes dark. And
yeah,
so he used to go outside and write. So did the great Shakespeare, outside and write.
yeah,
So why these buildings? Why he only built two buildings? The owners were made up, but the council weren't. Believe it or not, the council, because they were getting all the complaints off the gas people, because the gas came out then. The gas people, the candle people, the oil lamp people,
you know,
they were all getting at them. What are you allowing this for? They're doing us out of business. So he only got two buildings.
do you know what? And that, I, I'm, I'm so glad you said that, but it saddens me that you did, is that that's a story that has not changed. Even now, when people are trying to make ends meet and
No,
not have to pay that
no,
astronomical bill to an electrical firm or a gas firm, they've got you every which way. You can't move.
yeah,
No.
that's right. So it's things like that. It's things like that.
Yeah.
And if you go to Rodney Street, you've got the pyramids, haven't you?
Yeah.
The grave.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a pyramid grave in a churchyard?
No. Never.
You'll never will either. Now, I'm going to surprise some people on here. Do you know what? My arm's killing me. Not this one now. Down on my wrist.
Yeah.
I'm falling to bits. Anyway, I might surprise some people here talking about little cemeteries. All the church cemeteries were getting full up. And they said, listen, we'll have to do something. We can't. The church cemeteries. So one of them came out and said, well, why don't we consecrate? We've got some lands. Why don't we consecrate some land and inter, the people there? So they went, yeah, all right. Yeah. So they've got this land, consecrated it. So they started to bury people. and he called it the necropolis, which is Greek for the city of the dead.
Yeah.
So he called it the necropolis. And everyone, oh, great idea, that. Brilliant. So we can consecrate more areas. But that in 1824 became the very first public cemetery anywhere in the world.
Oh. Wow.
Anyway.
The scary,
even before the Wild West was there.
well,
Go on, what were you going to say?
the scary thing comes to mind is, what did we do before then?
Well, what has happened to be buried? This sounds awful. I think you're the only richest man here on the chat and everything else, Anthony. So you would have been all right. You would have been able to afford you to go into a proper grave. But the likes of poor me and our chat on here, we went in the lime pit. We couldn't bury them. So you had to pay to be buried in a churchyard.
Well, this is the other thing that comes to mind, and I'm sorry to be on this subject. Well, I'm not really, because it's life, it's history. What we talk about is that places like places like Ford Cemetery have massive unmarked pits, and I know from my family ancestry, some went into there. There's no kind of spoken place signposted. It's just part of living hand to mouth and poverty, and
Well, to be honest, when they called it the necropolis and they consecrated other grounds, they said, well, necropolis. They said, no, we can't call it the same. Because someone said, well, he's being buried or she's being buried in the necropolis. What one? So they started to name the likes of Anfield Cemetery, the likes of Ford Cemetery. So every cemetery were getting different names.
Yeah.
First time.
And again, it comes from a point where money outranks anything. And I remember our dear friend Bishop Tom Williams. The first time I met him was in that kind of narrow corridor of St. Anthony's Crypt.
The crypt, yeah.
Where there's various sections of it. And he said to me, he said, closest to the altar were where all the rich people sought to be buried or entombed.
Yeah.
Because closer to the altar, closer to God, and then there you go, ka-ching, 3 cherries, payout.
That's it. It was always the same. Funny enough, you saying that, say like there's the rich there, and at the back of them with the priests and the nuns, you know what I mean? Because they never had the money to get there. It was just their religion that would send them up to heaven. So yeah, you're spot on. And that's why you had these great philanthropists. I loved the best philanthropist to me, the best outside philanthropist, if you know what I mean, came from London. And his name was David Lewis, came up from London. He was a Jewish man.
Yeah.
And he looked around and he went, whoa. And he couldn't believe the poverty. He really couldn't believe the poverty. Living side by side with the gentry, shall we say. So he felt so sorry for the poor. And he built a shop. It was only a small one at first. And he had all this cheap stuff so that these poor people could at least buy something. They couldn't afford anything. So that they could afford to buy something. And obviously, he grew from there, and that became Lewis's store. Yeah. But also what he built for the poor, besides the rich as well, who had to pay. He built 2 hospitals. He built the Northern Hospital, and he also built the Royal Southern Hospital. So he built it on both sides of the city, north and south. And this is what he did. But he also built a theatre for the poor so that they could go in and be entertained because they couldn't afford to go to theatre.
Yeah.
You see? So a great philanthropist.
A great philanthropist and arguably just a beautiful, pure socialist.
Oh, yeah.
Just we're all people, and we had them in the 1800s, and some are forgotten, and some are put in the rich section. You
Yes.
know, people like William Morris, who studied with the pre-Raphaelites and all the other artists, and at a point he thought, I'm not good enough to be an artist, but I'll do my thing, which is graphic, wonderful designs.
Yeah.
And then he had in mind that every home, no matter how humble, every home should have the ability to have something beautiful in their home, whether it be furniture, a chair, a table, or something to go on the wall. If you can't afford a painting, then buy a roll of wallpaper. And that's kind of the philosophy behind his work, which
Yes. Yeah.
is just tremendous. You know,
Can I show you the railway?
yeah.
I like this. No. Just let me get it down. And I'm going to show you it now. And there it is there. I hope you can see this. See there? That's a railway. Right?
Wow.
Okay, now that's a railway. Just let me go out. Now that railway, see the things there and whatever. There's a little train going along there. And that is Exchange Station Railway. Right
Wow.
there. Exchange Station. Now, when you think about it, with Exchange Station, I was I was going to tell you something about me, a lad named James Allen, and we were passing there. We heard all screaming and everything. You know, he's walking down there, Type Barnsley. So we got in to see what was happening, and it was the Osmond, you know, screaming, and, you know, all the girls, you know. Now that was one of the last times that the station was opened. But the beauty of it is that we kept the facade. You know, when it became defunct, the station, it just became defunct. But we kept, Anthony, the facade. And what many people don't realise, you know, I've shown loads of people this, and they've never ever seen it. When I've been walking past, and there's a lovely mosaic frieze right along it. And people have said, I've never seen it, I've never noticed it before. Never ever noticed it before. But when you have that there, that particular building, you know, that facade and the railway station, you
Yeah.
also had just a few steps along going towards Grey Cross Hall Street, you know, going towards there. That's what I mean, just going there, or towards Vauxhall Road. You have another building. It's only what? It's by the Monroe pub. If you don't know the Monroe pub,
Yeah.
is it the Monroe? Yeah, the Monroe pub, named after President Monroe of America. But anyway, on a building there, you've got a magnificent a magnificent bust of Neptune. Neptune, it's big. He's on. You just see the big head, and it's on the bow of a ship. And people say, "Well, why do that?" I said, "Because what you're at, this is a port. You've got Neptune. There's loads of Neptunes all over Liverpool, and not many people know that. You know, little symbols, fish as well. You know, because we're a port, we're a great port. So there's lots of Neptunes." And they said, "Well, why build that one on there, you know, the bow of a ship?" And I said, "Because things change." I said, "You've got the railway. Liverpool built the very first passenger railway system in the entire world. So that's why you've got, you know, the facade still up, thank God. And the likes of, we've always been a port. And that's why you've got this. The pity Jason was in it. I've got a picture of it somewhere, but I can't. I really can't find it, unfortunately. But anyway, let's go out a little. So you see, now what you've got here as well, you've got Everton.
Yeah.
There's Everton. And what that is, you know, you might take it, that's the St. George's Church. Now, I've got to tell you something about St. George's Church. St. George's Church was the very first building to use an iron infrastructure. John Rickman, who was the architect, he wanted something different. He just wanted something different. And he said to his mate, John Cragg, who owned the Mersey Iron Foundry, he said, "Listen," he said, "I've got a commission to build this church." He said, "But it's on a hill." He said, "And I'm afraid if I use wood infrastructure, I want something more solid that I could, you know, loosen it or whatever with being on a hill. And the northwesterly winds coming down, southwesterly winds coming, northwesterly winds coming down. Can you help me?" So he said, "Yeah." So Cragg made an iron infrastructure, and this is in 1814. So St. George's Church became the very first building to use an iron infrastructure rather than wood in the world. And he built another one 2 years later, which was St. Michael's down in Egbert.
Yeah.
That was the next building to use an iron infrastructure. And it progressed right through. And say like 100 years later, with W. Aubrey Thomas, from John Cragg and Rickman to W. Aubrey Thomas 100 years later, well, he decided to put or build a building and put a steel infrastructure in. And that became the very first building with a reinforced concrete steel building. And that was, or still is today, the Liver building.
Wow.
You see, so when you look at these particular buildings, you know, the significant history behind them is unbelievable. It
Absolutely.
really is. It's unbelievable with these two buildings. And the unfortunate thing is, you know, when we look at Liverpool itself, let me just do something here. And when you see, you know, the wonderful train, it's incredible what we did. I'm trying to find. I bet you it's not on here. No, it's not on here. Let me try it. Hang on. Hang on. I'm sorry about this, people. I'm sorry about this. I just want to show you something. Bear with me. Comfort, yeah, got it. Just want to tell you something about this. Now, here, see there,
Yeah.
let me zoom in, see it better. Now, this is the Titanic Hotel today.
Okay. Yeah. The warehouse. Yeah.
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 Now, that was the Stanley Dock. That was the Stanley Dock. And what's here, right there. Now, you've got a break, haven't you, in the road? That's a road, as we know. That's the Dock Road. Though. So there's a break there, and the Stanley Dock became, or known as the pawn house dock, the pawn shop. I'm sorry, the pawn shop dock,
Yeah.
because if any ship couldn't pay their taxes or pay like whatever it was, excuse me, they used to put them in there. They used to put them in there in the
Yeah.
dock. That's how it became the pawn shop dock. Now some ships used to escape, so they said, "Listen, we'll have to do something about this." So what they got hold of um, Jesse Hartley, the same fella who built the Albert Dock.
Yeah.
And they said, "Can you do something about this?" Because you're getting like captains, sneaking out with the ships of, the early hours in the morning, and they're not paying their dues. So he said, "Yeah, I'll do something." And he built a mechanical dock, and it's still there today, a mechanical bridge, rather, so that it was open, right? And that's what you've got right there.
Yeah.
That's what you've got right there. It's a mechanical bridge. So it
Cool.
opens up so that ships can go in, and like I said, that one there, if that pays its dues, it'll be able to come out and sail to wherever it was going, back home most probably.
Back to the
No
ocean.
cargo. So you see, it's brilliant though, the thoughts out things that Liverpool became. So it was the first in the world, by the way, first
Yeah.
mechanical bridge in the world.
Wow.
So I had to show you that. I think it's great myself. I really do. And as I said, let's see. No, no. Let's see, look at that. 1865, illustrated London News. And they asked people, their people, to go up to Liverpool and did this map. Incredible map. Let's see who did this one.
Just, just absolutely. The artistry in that is just phenomenal. The detail, and we're still talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me just try. I don't know where I am. I'm useless at doing this. So hang on, where am I? Yeah, yeah. So what you've got there, let me zoom in again. I love this church.
Yeah.
Now
Oh,
that church, go on.
yeah.
You
No, it just. I was wondering where you were going when you were moving the map, and then that's, yeah,
well, that's St George's Church, right? Which is now Victoria's Monument. Victoria's Monument. And when you look at it today, Victoria's Monuments, F.M. Simpson, a fellow by the name of F.M. Simpson, designed it.
yeah,
And it came down, well, it opened up in 1906 because what the church people were saying, or the councillors, not the church people, I'm sorry, what they were saying is, listen, we need a monument to Victoria, and we need it in the heart of the city. So that was built in 1724, this.
Oh,
So that became obsolete with the council, so they knocked it down to make way for Victoria's monument.
that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what church that is? See if I
Wow,
can get in anymore.
quite gothic, isn't it? Beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Have you noticed the cemetery there? Look. Do you know what it is?
No.
It's, believe it or not, St. Peter's Church.
Wow.
That's Church Street, you see. St.
Wow.
Peter's Church. And that's the sad thing, because that was built in 1701, that particular church. And when Liverpool got its city status in 1880, finally city status in 1880, the government said, listen, you need to build a cathedral. Every city has to have a cathedral. So he said, yeah, okay. So the Anglican was being built, and this became the pro-cathedral, the provincial cathedral, this,
Yeah.
St. Peter's. And in 1923, they decided to pull it down instead of leaving it.
Insane.
Historical.
Do you know how sad it is? But the first I heard of that beautiful church was during the build up to what became the new Liverpool, and you were historian for it. The new shopping centres and everything else.
Oh,
And someone pointed to next the store, which was on the site, and he said that was the site of St. Peter's Church. I thought,
yeah.
I don't know if it's you and I walking through town, and you said that's where it was.
The cross, the little cross.
Yeah.
And you know, all right, but it symbolises where it was. But see, we've got lots of things up to say what was there. It's like FM Simpson's Victoria Monument, because on the side of it, no one was. When I show people the plaque and the castle, they're shocked. They say, "Oh, we've never seen that." Well, you don't look. You say, "This is what I say to them." Well, you don't look. You don't walk around. You just look at it and go, "Oh, yeah, that's it," and walk away.
Yeah.
Because I can show you things from the monument, looking down Lord Street into Church Street,
Yeah.
and I shock people. I actually shocked them. I said, "Do you see that building there?" They go, looking down. I said, "Can you see it? It's got a green roof." And they go, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And I tell them about that building from there and what it represented. And they're in complete awe when I tell them.
Yeah.
We've got great buildings.
Do you know what? There's been so many of our lovely chat who've mentioned the more they embrace history, the more we start looking up instead of looking at the shop sign. We are a nation obsessed with shop signs and storefronts and not the history.
That's true.
Which comes to mind, have we ever had a heritage organisation based in Liverpool?
Have we ever? I think so, you know. I tried to carry it on, if you like, you know, when it was okay. bringing people around, showing them things. I brought Americans around. I brought Australians. I brought everybody around, including our own people. And I always remember being in Rodney Street,
Yeah.
and this lady, I was talking by the pyramid, fully enough, and this lady come running over to me, and she said, "Hello there," and I went, "Oh, hello." She said, "I know you." She said she's from Australia,
Yeah.
and she said, "My friends who live, my neighbours," she said, friends, neighbours, "you've got DVDs out." I said, "Yeah." She said, "She shows us them." And she says very proudly, "This is my city." She said, "We came over to see where the cavern was."
Yeah.
They obviously the Beatles. And
That's always a big thing, isn't it? But yeah, my thing with the heritage, we have it up and down the country. We have the English Heritage Association, blah blah blah. Why didn't we ever have a Liverpool one that you have to go through? If I'm going to knock that building down there to put a car park up, and the heritage people have the power to say, no, not happening.
Yeah.
We didn't. It seems to be a central government thing that overstamp everything. Give you the funding for that, we won't for that. There's nothing for that. And as you said, sell it on.
I'm going to show you something there now.
Wow, look at the detail in that.
Look at see the church, right? See it? Do you know what that is, Anthony? I'm going to tell you that church now. Now, I showed you one church, didn't I?
Yeah.
That was, I showed you one church that was the provincial Anglican,
Yeah.
provincial cathedral. And this became the provincial cathedral, and that's St. Nick's. Where the bull ring is here now today.
Oh, yeah.
St. Nick's now.
Wow.
And there's a fella named John Keith, and he rang me up. He's a sports front man, he's a nice fella, John. Done a couple of documentaries with him. And he phoned me up. And he said, "Frank," I said, "What?" He said, "St. Nicholas Church." I said, "Yeah." I said, "It was the pro cathedral for the Catholic cathedral." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Have you got any idea what they did with the altar?" Because it was marble and it was low, he's given all this. I said, "Yeah." I said, "It went back to Italy. But I don't know where it went. I don't know whether it went to Bologna or Verona. I'm not quite so sure. One of those two cities for a church." So you see, I want to show you this as well, Anthony. I think this is very, very, very important. Right? Now you've got St. George's Hall here, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can't get in anymore. Now then, Lime Street Station. Yeah? Look at the size of that roof. That was the biggest, still is. Well, it was the biggest glass roof in the world, the railway. But here's what I want to show you and the people. I'm wondering if Jason's home. I'm dying for a drink. Could have had a little break. I don't know whether he's home or not. But you see the tunnel there, so you've got this is the railway tunnel coming into Lime Street.
Yeah.
And the fella who built the tunnel, the engineer from Edgell, was a lad named Mackenzie, Scottish engineer, and he's actually buried in that pyramid, Mackenzie. And they've got a pub on the corner of Rodney Street called Mackenzie's.
Wow.
But I want to show you this, Hans. I want to show you this. And it goes from there,
Yeah.
right along, right along, right along, right along, right along. And there's London Road, right?
Yeah.
And that I showed a coloured, was it a Jason song? I showed a coloured print.
It is the Venetian looking bridge.
Yeah, that's a colonnade all the way along from Lime Street Station. Do you know what you see Lime Street Station today? You've got the big hotel, haven't you?
Yeah.
The big hotel. So next to the hotel, you've got the arches, haven't you, going into Lime Street Station?
Yeah.
Well, that carried on. There's the arches there. So that just carried on, came out, if you like, came out and went along Lime Street. See what I mean? It came out here so that it wouldn't. There's the entrance to Lime Street there.
Yeah.
That's the entrance, right? So it went right along here, right along, bang. There you have a theatre. Right there.
Yeah.
So you see, the sad thing is, the sad bloody thing is, and there's the other church there. That's St. John's Church that they knocked down.
Yeah.
To build the gardens, and that was a cemetery.
Yeah.
That was just a cemetery, a cemetery.
And of course, that was there long before St. George's Hall was completed.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah, 1770. Well, in 1771, I'm sorry. In 1771, what stood on the site? Again, it was Jason must be home. He was working down in Leicester. He said he might get home, but I don't know. Like this particular site of St. George's Hall, there was a hospital, and it became the very first Liverpool hospital, which was the infirmary. It was just called the infirmary, and then later on, it became. I hate saying this word, but it became a lunatic asylum.
Yeah.
So with the likes of Lime Street now being built and people coming out of the station and go looking at this and go, whoa, look at that. That's great. But what the council was saying, they said, listen, we can't have the lunatics wandering about the grounds. So we'll have to pull it down. So they pulled it down. By 1838, the site was all prepared, got the architects in, and a young lad by the name of Harvey Lonsdale Elms won the competition. He was only in his 20s. He won the competition, very young, 23, I think.
Magical.
Yeah, and he won the competition, built the wonderful hall that we all love today. But this particular thing here, Wellington's column, that was put up in 1863. That opens its doors in 1854. No, it didn't. Yeah, it did. 1854. So from 1842 to 1854. And in 1856, Victoria came up to open up officially open it up. And from there you have all this. This is all the neoclassical buildings from there right down to here. And that's our heritage. But isn't it brilliant the way it's been laid out?
Absolutely.
And it's shame that things, the likes of this, was knocked down to widen the bloody road. That could have still been up there, that colonnade. Beautiful.
Yeah. The attention to detail is just phenomenal with that, Frank.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And some of these streets are so historic to London Road, for instance, and the surrounding streets. It's like there's so many stories in every street.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. Do you see what that is? That was the biggest fish market in the Northwest. Wow. That was the St. John's Fish Market. With a big entrance there. Big entrance. This was all the fruit and veg stuff all around here. All around here. Fruit and veg. Queen Square.
Queen Square, yeah. As a youngster, you worked there yourself, didn't you? Casual.
Yeah. Everyone did from Jerry Gardens, because I only came from. This became Jerry Gardens here and Jerry Crescent this year. And I only used to come out of here, walk through St. John's Gardens, through here, right to. Yeah. That's all.
Wow.
And I used to work with, do you know what? I was working there one morning. We used to have to go, we used to have to be there for 6 o'clock in the morning, unloading dishes on a Saturday morning. Anyway, I went there and this fella went out, do you want a job, lad? I went, yeah, please. And it was a big wagon full of banana boxes. Dirty, great big things. So anyway, I was unloading them out, as you do, young, vibrant, full of energy, and unloading them. And the fella said, not just me, a few others, if you want to open a box, have a couple of bananas and you can take a bunch home with you when you're finished. And we go, oh yeah, great. Open this up. Big fucking spider. The hairy thing come out.
Oh my!
We all ran away. I should have seen that big hairy thing. Now we're used to little house spiders, you know what I mean? You see them crawling about and whatever, and looking at you, becoming your best mate. But honestly, should have seen the size of this big brown thing it was. Oh, still think about it now.
That was the downside, the stuff coming off the docks, off the boats, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Loads.
We
ended up, though, with we unloaded them, obviously. And shouted, I've killed it, I killed it. So anyway, we all went back, and this fella was going, young fella like me, say, where is it then? Where have you killed it? He said, I threw it down the grid. Get back to it. He never, you know what I mean? He was more scared than us. And we got our bunch of bananas as well, to take home. Got paid. Bunch of bananas. And every Christmas Eve, no one bought a Christmas tree, because every Christmas Eve we went down to Williamson Square, and because they used to sell loads of Christmas trees. And they were no good then. They were all shutting up, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were just throwing them out. So used to just bring one home. That's every time our Christmas tree went up. It was about 6 o'clock in the night, Christmas Eve. I'll just go through some of these because people have been with us. I'm sorry there, people. I've been going on and on and on. Redbird, bless up, guys. I love you.
You, Redbird, thank you.
And Gary says, I used to love the post house. Bit small, though. And it was a small.
Yeah.
It was. I remember getting a phone call and saying, can you get down here, and throw in a few comments and whatever. I said, yeah, okay. Went down there and I helped anyway to keep it because they wanted to pull it down. Freddie O'Connor rang me, it was. Yeah. Freddie's no longer with us, unfortunately. And he wrote a cracking book titled It All Came Tumbling Down.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've got a copy there somewhere.
Yeah, I've got one too. I remember speaking to him and as a youngster, he was bought a camera, or he had a camera, and he wonderful man, wonderful artistic soul in him, that he wanted to take photographs of certain buildings and places that he knew wouldn't be up there long, and
go on. I'm just sending Jason a message.
That's exactly what he did for years. We'd walk the streets with his brother Freddie and snap photographs, whether it be Tate and Lyle or the areas we were looking at before with the Stanley Dock, all around there and into town. And then that's what ultimately became the book.
Well, that's it, because if you wanted to know about, say, people always used to ask me about pubs. And I used to say, I don't do pubs, I'm sorry. I said, the only person, you need to ask questions about pubs is a fella by the name of Freddie O'Connor. As I said, he's no longer with us as Fred.
Wonderful, man.
Yeah. Good evening, lads. Frankie and Anthony off the Anfield Road.
Oh, wow.
For you then.
We're getting the bus home then.
Yeah, yes. Oh, please, yeah. Can you do?
Brilliant.
No, he's still out. I thought it was him saying, yeah. He's not. I've got to let him know to one another. And George says, I remember the famous Scouser saying of Ireland. Ireland is the scourge of this house. W.E. Gladstone talking about Ireland in the House of Commons. Don't take that comment, George, too seriously, because it was he wasn't talking about. I'll tell you what he was talking about. He was talking about, look, prime ministers, if they wanted to help Ireland, I'll tell you one of them. I'll tell you the first one was William Pitt, the younger. And there was a famine, believe it or not, in 1800. And he said, I've had enough of this. Pitt the younger said, I've had enough of this. This is ridiculous. People are starving. He said, the English barons own all the land and they're not feeding their own people. He said, so I've had enough. Because before then, the very first famine, George, was in 1566. The second famine was in 1727. The third, 1729. The fourth, 1740. And then the fifth was in 1800. So Ireland's has a hell of a lot of famines, all English related. No one else. No one else. And then he brought in 1801 Ireland into the Union. And this is what you have today: England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. So by the time 1845 came about, which was one of the greatest tragedies, with, as they call it today, the potato famine. But it wasn't, it was the Great Starvation. The Great Starvation of the Irish by the English. And George Bernard Shaw said, how could there be a famine when the country was full of food? Because it was. People don't realise that during the 1845, potato blight, they were exporting over to England potatoes, good potatoes, because there was a blight here in the home counties, along with northern Europe, the likes of Normandy and Belgium and Holland. Because of the American, it was diseased shipments they were sending out in 1844, and they were being planted in 1845. They all had a blight as well. But Ireland, because of the English, suffered most. Officially, it was put down at 760,000 people died. No, unofficially, more like 3 million people died. It was a genocide. And that's why he said it's the scourge, because he couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything. Always remember that. But it wasn't, he did say it actually. But you can take quotes one way or another. You can. If you know what I mean. If you don't know the background. It's like these people who go on a quiz. And that old professor who was saying about, who went over to America and give these lectures. He actually, I was talking to him, some fella, like, he missed out on double your money or something when I was at uni. And he missed out on the big jackpot. And I was talking to him, and he said, these people, what was it? Forget who it was. But anyway, he said to me, I said, they're great, aren't they? They must not be clever, these people, answering all these questions. He said, it's okay answering a question, but if you ask the same person to elaborate more on the answer he's given, he won't be able to. Never forget that. And he was so right. Good evening to a vice nice devil, aka Johan. That lovely. Look at all. Oh yeah, look. Got to ask about the red bird. Barry says, how are you doing, Raw? And everyone, hope you're all okay. The red bird says, yep, feeling champion, the Raw. I'm well buzzed. They are saying so. I made up that they're all chatting to one another while we've been battling on.
Yeah.
Tony, you're absolutely right. I forgot to mention it, didn't I? Grant Gardens, the bottom of Everton Road and West Derby Road, became the very first public cemetery. I forgot to mention it. Thank you for reminding me. And Gary says, I remember the David Lewis building. Yeah, we knocked it down in the 70s or 80s. We knock everything down. I wanted to show, I'll try and show you something now, boys and girls. Let me see. And I will, sorry there. I'll take it off there, Gary. Right. Let me see. Hang on. Oh, fuck off. Right. Where am I? There I am. I'm going to show you something there. That's right. It's right there. And that particular place, let me go in a bit more. Where am I? Let me go in there. This particular place here.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's there. Hang on, where is it? Where is it? Do you know what? It's here. Do you see with the columns?
Yeah.
Can you see the columns there?
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's like a large white building on the end.
Yeah, that's it. That was the Theatre Royal.
Wow.
And it was one of the best theatres in the whole of the country.
Wow.
Even Charles Dickens acted there, because Charles Dickens, to the contrary of what people think, he wasn't only a prolific writer, still is today, his writings, but he's also an amateur actor. And he actually appeared there.
Oh, absolutely brilliant.
And that's the site today. There's Queen Square.
Yeah.
There's the Bubble bus stops here. And here on the site is the Liverpool shop, the Liverpool FC shop. And they knocked it down. It became the ice cold storage place. And it was the Theatre Royal. Great significant history. Franz Liszt came over to play there. Excuse me. To play there. And he's still there, right? I forget what composition he was writing. But anyway, he actually finished it off here in Liverpool whilst playing at the Theatre Royal.
Wow.
Incredible, isn't it?
It is terrible. And again, it's that thing about if we'd had a proper body of people that could not be argued with the heritage people, then we might still have some of this history.
Yes.
Is that why in modern times we've got the Royal Court Theatre? Is that why that was built after?
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't built after. It was built around the same time that was going. So they said, it's no use having two theatres. Pull that one down. And I don't know whether anyone was aware, even you, Anthony. I don't know whether the Bruce told you that anything, but it's the only the Playhouse is the only repertory theatre still going today.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
We've got it here.
The great greats in our lifetime and before us. Your Ronnie Barkers, all of these people all played there, passing
Yeah.
through in rep. Oh, it's wonderful.
Do you've got that St. John's Market going along here, Lime Street. You come out to Lime Street, you've got that stupid fucking big screen there, haven't you? Like,
Yeah,
you've got Lime Street Station, right? And when you look over from Lime Street, you've got that big screen, haven't you? That hits you in the face.
yeah,
Now there, when I used to go out, me and the lads used to go around. We used to go into the Crown here, and then if we ever went along to if we went along to the Vines, the big house,
yeah,
we just stayed and went down that part of the town. But if we went here and decided if we were running a bit late, we'd bypass here. We wouldn't go to the Vines. We used to go in here, around here,
yeah.
along that. All the neon signs were there, neon signs, I'm sorry, all the neon signs. It was very much like Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah.
And we used to go to a few pubs. Remember Sadie? So you remember Sadie?
No, vaguely.
Yeah, the gay fella, barman. But anyway, he used to work here in the Caledonia. He got to know us. And then we used to go around there. Do you ever remember the magic clock?
We talk about this, and I know a lot of our chat. I never remember seeing it as actual.
No, but you remember, you've heard of the thing. Well,
Yeah,
that used to be here. That used to be just here. So we used to go from there. What I'm saying is, we used to go from there to there, then into town along Jail Street. See what I mean? So
yeah,
these all avenues. But then going back to what I was saying, Anthony, here was absolutely stupendous. And look at the big light there, big gas light, but lights here,
yeah,
fantastic. And they knocked that down. Now we've got St. John's Market, big stupid screen showing you stupid things. I don't know. And obviously they knocked that down. They knocked that down. The fish market. Used to go in there. Used to go in there from here when we were working.
yeah.
It became a fruit market. It's where the bananas used to come up. The bananas and the big spider.
Bananas and the spiders.
Incredible. And there is the Mersey tunnel. Knocked all that down, the old day market,
Yeah,
and built the tunnel
yeah,
right there. Fantastic. And it opens up in 1934.
yeah.
All gone. All gone. All. That was a brilliant shirt. I've got, and that's the myth, isn't it? Why didn't he put the plateau out here? Piss off. Why didn't he put the plateau? There's a big church there and it's got nothing to do. The lands have nothing to do with us here. But have you noticed here, Anthony, all the railings going around, to block it off there? All the railings. All the railings.
Because it was a cemetery as well. It's not like
Yeah.
it wasn't open now, was it?
They had the railings, they had the big gates as well, which are not there. Do you know why they came down?
No.
They came down because when war broke out, when the war broke out, they needed iron, as they thought, to make bullets and bombs and whatever. And they were asking lots of people and cities, any iron. So we took all the iron from around there and the gates, and up in Rodney Street, they left all the railings there. All that was a very exclusive area. Rodney still is very exclusive, and they've still got all the railings. But the likes of this around here, all the railings were taken up, and they were never used because they were no good to make bombs or to make any weapons, to be honest. Let's just go through some of these. So you're right there, Tony. Grant Gardens, mate. Thank you. Johan. There's a David Lewis Epilepsy Centre in Cheshire. I didn't know he was such a great. Johan, he was a wonderful person. He was, in my opinion, the greatest philanthropist in Liverpool. He was a Londoner, by the way. He helped someone. My doctor, he's well dead, been dead since the 60s. When I was, he used to call, he used to pretend I wanted to stay off school, and he used to pretend, but, my grandmother used to go and call the doctor, Francis, as ill. There's nothing wrong with me, really. So anyway, he came out one day, as my grandmother called him, and he just looked at me, this Dr. Collin, and he went, "Get up, get dressed." "Oh, I'm sick." He said, "No, you're not. Get up, get dressed." He was an Irishman.
Yeah.
He was an Irishman, a beautiful Irishman. And anyway, he used to bring me to school. Well, he brought me to, he only ever did it the once. And I'll never, ever forget the quote he said to me. He said, "Francis," I was only a mad little kid. He said, "Francis, the best medicine for you is education." And put me in the class, brought me into my class.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? I was so embarrassed at the age of 23 being brought along by my doctor to sit me in the class. So, but do you know what? I did a bit of it. On one of my DVDs, I wanted to mention him because he was a philanthropist. Because when he first came over, and I think it was 34, there was no national health then. And he's seen the people of Everton and the poor kids. And he used to help them. And he used to go to homes, just going into houses saying, "Is everything all right?" And if someone was ill, he always left a threepenny bit on the mantelpiece for them, pittance on the mantelpiece to get something to eat. Or like a chippy or whatever, because you could get chippies then for trips. If you like. And that's what kind of a person he was. But he had his ear off. He had his ear off. And I said to me, I always remember my grandmother saying, "Oh, the Japanese cut us off." I said, "Go away, did they?" He said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, cut it off." So when I was doing this little thing to put on one of my DVDs, I was his doctor. My doctor then was his daughter. And
wow.
I said to her, I said, "We're doing this thing." She said, "Oh, thank you so much." Oh, it was great, really great. And I said, "Can I mention about his ear being lopped off by the Japanese?" She said, "No." She said, "That was a mistake." I said, "My grandmother told me that." She said, "No, that went around." She said, he did it in a car crash when he was younger. I said, "All right, okay." I said, "Okay." And I told my grandmother, said, take no notes. The Japanese cut it off. I said, okay then. Couldn't say that on the but this is what it's all about. And
It's
that
it,
Irish dogs are beautiful. All the family, the Connor, and I'm still under them today.
that's wonderful, and that you got in touch. You were connected with the daughter, like
Yes.
the 6 degrees of separation, isn't it? Whenever,
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Catherine came to see me and her other daughter. Every one of them, the doctors, except one, seven of them.
yeah,
And every one of them, the doctors except one. I don't know what she is, but one of them, um, someone sent him out a DVD, with his, what I spoke about his dad, and he's the flying doctor in Australia,
wow,
and so I just think that people are so lovely, and if I can talk about people, I will.
yeah, yeah. I far prefer to talk about people and the good people, and we got so many of them, like you said, Frank. You go back in history, but you know the wisdom of the Irish is just profound.
Oh, yeah,
Uh, My mum and her side of the family could spot a bullshitter at 2 streets.
absolutely, absolutely. You're spot on there. George said, great picture, Frank. I stayed in the Titanic Hotel exactly a year ago at a wedding, and I remember looking out at exactly what you described. Oh, go
Well,
away.
yeah, the bridge. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, there's the Will P. Oh, you will. Oh, I'm sorry.
evening, Will.
Notice, yeah. Evening, Frank and Anthony and oh, Will. Lovely fella. Lovely fella. Anthony, from an artistic perspective, says George said, how does anyone get such accurate scale and detail on a picture, such as the one we are looking at?
George, do you know what? It's absolutely staggering the talent that's in that. The gadgetry that we did not have in those days. It's phenomenal. I think like anything else. It would be time, effort, um, something he's done a lot, or she has done a lot of, and it's it's just marvelous. And in those days, they weren't even called artists, map makers. What would they have been called? But the fact that we're talking about it 100 and odd years later, and the
It's
attention,
incredible, isn't it? And as George says, the detail is phenomenal.
I could
Phenomenal.
sit on top of the highest building in Liverpool for a week and draw, and I would not come close to capturing the city the way
And don't
that
forget, these were done in a balloon.
yeah, I
These
know.
were done in a balloon. And a balloon had only been going, what, 80 or 90 years before they went up.
And there was no photography then, so it's not like
No, no.
I captured it on my phone and then went home and
When this came out in 1867,
yeah,
so it's just like 100 years after the Gulf, well, less than 100 years, just over 100 years, I'm sorry, because they went up in 1774 in a balloon.
yeah.
In a balloon. Anyway, Barry Aldrich says, I was waiting for you to mention the asylum being knocked down. I think because all the well-to-do people using Lime Street Station could look into the place. It wasn't Lime Street in the year. Yeah, that's right. As I said, they knocked it down. They couldn't have people coming off the train. these rich people, and these poor souls wandering about the grounds.
But
So he pulled it down.
on a good point, I like to think that most of them would have got a well-paid occupation as town
Yeah,
planners and government officials.
yeah. And Gary says, remember the Punch and Judy? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Codman. Yeah, the Codmans. Yeah, remember that? Used to
yeah.
watch them as a kid on the plateau. Punch and Judy. And Barry says, did they demolish the asylum because the well-to-do people could see it? Yeah, that's why. It's just simple as that. And there was only the rich he could get on. Barry says, Lime Street has a slightly different name, didn't it? Yeah, it was known as Lime Kiln Lane because of all the lime kilns, the kilns that process the lime. So, but, when they took away them as well, because all the fumes and everything else was going into the asylum, when it was a hospital, and they said, oh, listen, the doctors, the physicians were saying this is bad for the patients. So they knocked them down. But they still retained Lime, hence Lime Street.
They moved the operation, so to speak, down towards Scotland Road, didn't he?
Yeah,
Lime Lane.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Remembers one of your streams, says Barry. And Johan, surely the artist had a photographic memory or something. They couldn't be up there for that long to capture that detail. I think they went up over a few days, to be honest, doing each section. But, to give you the perspective, I'll show you. Just bear with me a minute. To give you the perspective, right? So you've got that. You've got that, right? So you can imagine them doing different sections one day, going along and doing another, because it's in magnificent detail, no matter how you look at it.
It's
Magnificent.
a piece of genius, and the
Yeah,
only person ever I've seen come close to that was Leonardo da Vinci, who could
Leonardo.
draw maps like that, but he would walk the areas he was going to draw, and then remember that walk, and everything came together in a scale. But that is just phenomenal. With about the churches that were seeing so much detail in.
This, look at that. You've got the train line, look.
Yeah, the woods, and then in the houses you've got a White House, which is bespoke and you know historical.
Uh, I've actually got this. I haven't got it here. Yeah, Anthony, I'll show you something, mate. Hang on, let me take this out. Hang on. Oh, come on. Can you see this here? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Hang on. Can you see?
Okay. Yeah. With the rosary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess who they were blessed by? Pope Francis.
Get away.
Yeah. And they were
Oh,
given to me.
how wonderful is that?
Yeah. And given to me.
Oh,
Off a
that's
lady. Off a
beautiful.
lady. She said, yeah, Frank, that's for you.
You know what? I think he was an absolutely remarkable gentleman,
Uh,
Pope Francis.
oh, he's brilliant. He was great. But I think this Pope, I think it's definitely political, in my opinion.
He
Really,
is.
yeah.
It's looking like he's on the right side, to
Yeah.
be honest.
George said, used to go to the Punch and Judy when we got off of the boat to go to the match early in the 80s. They let us in at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Lime Street.
There's a couple of
Used
pubs
to
like,
be cheap. Go on,
yeah.
sorry.
No, I was just going to say that there's always a couple of pubs that would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Christopher says, no one could get tired of looking at that map. It's amazing.
Yeah. Totally right, Christopher. Yeah.
It is amazing.
And it's the stories behind it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The guy, the artist, genius as he is to do that, would not have known the history and the stories behind each of those locations. And obviously, you couldn't imagine that stupidly over the years that they pulled down some of the most remarkable parts of him.
Well, that's what I was actually intended to do. I had nothing planned or anything, so I thought, I'll have the map up. Show
Yeah,
some buildings that have been pulled down, but I haven't. The only thing was, well, the churches that were pulled down, and
yeah,
also the wonderful colonnade in Lime Street.
yeah.
I'll just before I go, just show this. I think I've got it here. Just bear with me a second. I'll show you what I mean about the thing. Just put me on my phone. Let me bear with me. Yeah, I wanted to show this as well, but I think it was last week I wanted to show it. And I couldn't put my hands on this last week. And it's that. I hope you can see it okay. Bear with me, I'm right. And it's that. Oh, I can't fucking see it. Right
Oh,
now, that is exchange flags.
yeah,
Exchange flags. And they pulled that down in 1954.
yeah,
Beautiful. Arches,
yeah,
frieze, an orangery was in there,
yeah,
statues, pulled it down. Exchange flags. Exchange flags.
yeah.
See if you can get this up. Yeah, got it right on it. Right on it. How about that? Wow. I'm good, son. Just picking things. That's what they knocked down. You know what I'm saying about Lime Street?
Yeah, yeah. The
That's
arch.
the colonnade. That's the colonnade they knocked down. Look at the scale of it, the size of it.
Yeah,
Like a ancient Greek or
it is.
ancient Roman colonnade.
Absolutely. That's what you.
Just
Yeah,
imagine that there today, facing St. George's Hall.
yeah,
And I'm going to get another picture of. I keep me. Do you know what? forget, I keep forgetting. And I want this picture up by Jason. He's got to look for it, though. He's got to look for it. We have got it somewhere. I haven't. And it's that. You won't be able to see it, but I'll get Jason to you won't have that line there, but I'll get Jason to root it out for next week.
Yeah.
Root it out. Are we playing on Monday? I won't be having the history show on Monday, but the next history show, I will have that picture, and then it'll all come together.
Yeah.
Everything will come together because I'll have pictures of the neoclassical, and what where we wanted to extend it.
Yeah.
See what I mean? And as I said, the likes of it was going to extend to this particular thing.
Just phenomenal.
And we knocked it down, Anthony.
Because it never, that kind of genius, that vision that took for the architects to build these fantastic buildings did not spread outside the city, really, did it?
No.
We didn't, for instance, we didn't take it to Egbert or to wherever else. It just kind of stopped.
Johan says, Pope Leo's brother has hilarious tweets about Pelosi being drunk. She's a horrible woman, Johan. Warhawk. And George Seth says, bravo, Anthony. The picture comes to life with Frank's brilliantly detailed and oh, that's nice. Thank you, George. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just which.
And Barry says, where they used to keep the labourers, so to speak, from escaping may have been below the overhead railway. Please correct me. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. They used to keep the labourers, so to speak, from escaping. May have been below the overhead railway. Please correct me. Do you know what? I understand what you're saying there, and I think you're actually talking of. I'll get a picture. Barry, I'll promise you, I'll get a picture and I'll show you something. And to say, is this what you mean? Well, I'll get it for the next time. Promise you. Okay. I promise you that. Christopher says, yeah, Brighton Monday, that's the game, yeah. And Parade following Monday. So we'll be having so I won't be having I'll be having a football watch along on Monday night then, Brighton game. The parade, I might be able to go, to this bloody parade. I'm that bad. I'm really bad now. I am.
That's the beauty of live TV, though, capture it, because we too, I won't be there, but I will be watching.
But I wanted to go. I'm going to see how I am. But, the last week been in a terrible state. Really. So I'll just see how I am. See how how things lie, because I really want to go on that, and I want to meet the lads off me pod, me, me little football pod. That's it. But anyway, tomorrow night is the current affairs program. I'll be doing that. It'll be hard actually. I'm gonna hold no punches. I'm telling you now. There's great manipulators in this. What's going on today? They're manipulating each and every one. They're writing scripts for everyone. I love that. That's brilliant.
Beautiful.
Look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that. Look at that. It's the railway, that. It's the railway. Yeah, look at that, eh? £5 Liverpool for this. A fiver. Our own currency. I love that. Now that's Tower Building there, Anthony.
Yeah.
And the church behind it's the St. Nick's.
Wow.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Isn't that brilliant? I love
Wow.
that. I've got the picture actually somewhere here. And I just love it. I really do. And that's how far the water came up, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The Mersey was much wider than we see today because everywhere's landlocked now, if you know what I mean. The Mersey, like the other side of the Mersey, the likes of Seacombe, New Brighton and Birkenhead and going along. So they've narrowed it, especially with what we've done, the likes of the Liver Building, Cunard and Port of Liverpool and all the hotels and whatever. So we've narrowed it, and even the docks on the boat side, we've narrowed the river. It was much wider. But isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely.
Look at that. The overhead railway, St. Nick's Church, the second tower as well, which is just to the left as
Yeah.
or to our right as the second tower to St. Nick's Church. The floating landing stage, the overhead railway, you can see. Oh. Look at the buses. Look at the buses. Horse-drawn buses. Look at that. 1830, Lord Street image.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
You wouldn't think so, would you?
No.
Little gardens and little plots of land, to grow things.
Well, I kind of imagine that was the landscape coming down from Everton, Scotland Road area and stuff, but obviously still into Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, do you know where it's got Lord Street, earliest known Lord Street image? Well, that is, I think they're looking up towards Church Street because that church there must be St. Peter's. You know what we looked at before?
Yeah.
The provisional. Every time I say provisional, I always forget to say provisional IRA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The provisional. Oh, no, they are. Look. This is where I go mad over things. That building there was built. There was two architects, father and son, named the Fosters. And John Foster Sr., both named John, but John Foster Sr. designed and built that in 1800. 1800. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's majestic. It's beautiful. It's stunning. Yeah. It's Georgian, believe it or not. George the Third, if you like. And he pulled it down to make way for the precinct. I know that when they were taking it out, I had nothing at all to do with it because I was too young. And but people were saying that they were saying, just keep it, don't pull it down, please keep it, build a precinct. You know, like you've got the fish, now it's coming down. So they pulled it down. They just pulled it. Beautiful, solid building. And there's Lewis's just facing it as well. Oh, shocking. Shocking. Yeah, there's the lads. William Brown laying the foundation stone of the new museum and library in 1857. Fantastic.
That's wonderful, isn't it? What a historic photo that is.
Old All Street. Wow. Wow. Look at that. Turn of the 20th century. Well, anyway, mister, has it been okay tonight?
Thank you, Frank. It's great. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely brilliant.
George said. Frank and Anthony, thank you both for tonight, and I shall be back for the movie show on Saturday. Don't forget to watch None. Yeah, I will. Honestly, I will. I will. One of the lads recommended me to watch a film called The Surfer.
The Surfer.
Terrible. Terrible. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Toscana. Those old pictures are stunning, says Toscana. Thank you. Toscana.
Yeah. It's almost like the photographers knew what they were doing, the importance of taking shots, because we, in 100 or so years, will be talking about them.
Yes. And the Red Bird, another great show. Thank you. Thank you, Red Bird. Really appreciate it, mate. Really do. And Johan, thank you so much for this historical lesson and commentary. Once again, Sir Carlyle and Sir Brown. Have a great night. Nights of the chat. Have a great night. Nights of the chat.
Thank you, sir.
Be a lovely fella. And Christopher, like Frank and Anthony and everyone, up the history making bets.
Good night, Christopher.
So if anyone wants to listen in tomorrow night, I'll be here. I'll be doing the current affairs. Saturday morning, I'll be doing the film and TV review. And on Monday night, I'll be doing the watch along. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody for tonight. I really do. To my great friend, Anthony. And if you ever want to see his work, it just goes Anthony Brown, YouTube, and Facebook. That's what you get it on. That's lovely. Johan says, Frank, I've just started watching your Liverpool Unravelled episode 1. I didn't know the Tower of Everton badge was holding a holding cell. I'd locked the Glazers in them since you asked in the document. Yeah, she's a Man United fan, and for years they've been trying to get out the Glazers. They wear these, I think it's a yellow and a green scarf, these are the people that are against the Glazers, Man United fans. And George, Frank, before you go, please do a show on Brunel and his liver. I will do. Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Isambard Kingdom Brunel. I certainly will, George. I certainly will. And the Great Eastern. Connection with the Great Eastern, what he built, and Liverpool. And Barry says, thanks again for the great history lesson, Frank and Anthony. You'll never walk alone.
Thank you, Gary.
And Johan says, Frimpong, here we go, shit. Yeah, looks like they're going to sign him. I don't think we'll take no notice of where it's too much money. 120 million euro. As if we'd pay that. But anyway, thank you, Anthony. Chat.
Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, one and all.
Been brilliant.
With
Absolutely. Honestly, I'm not just saying that. Been brilliant. And if our little Toscana is still listening, mille grazie, Toscana. Buonanotte. A domani. And it's all for me to say is Anthony on the next one. Okay?
Yeah.
Might have a Tuesday, actually. Do you know what I really want to do? What I really want to do, I don't want any history shows because there's bloody football.
Yeah.
Every night, more or less, especially with the Champions League and the UEFA Cup, whatever it's called. So I'll be looking out for them certain nights. So
yeah,
I may have to change to Thursday nights.
Just let me know, Frank. We'll send me a text or we'll talk. Yeah, just let me know. I am happy to fit in. It's just a blessing being with you, guys.
It's good, everyone on there to be with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Anthony. I'll see you soon. Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, Bella. Ciao.